Shishi Guru Gauranga Gandharvika Giridhari Shishi Radha Bihari Juki Shri Govinda Gopinath Maran Mohan Juki Jai Nityal Vishnupa Rashata Rashata Shmar Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Gosai Maharaj Shri Gurudev Ki Jai Nityal Vishnupa Rashata Rashata Shmar Bhakti Vedanta Vaman Gosai Maharaj Ki Jai Nityal Vishnupa Rashata Rashata Shmar Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Nityal Vishnupa Rashata Rashata Shmar Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Gosai Maharaj Ki Jai Nityal Vishnupa Rashata Rashata Shmar Bhakti Siddhanta Sarasvatī Gosai Prabhupada Ki Jai Nityal Maha Bhagavat Srila Gaur Kishoras Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai Nityal Vaishnav Sarvabhauma Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai Shri Rupa Nuguriya Guru Varga Ki Jai Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jeev Gopal Bhattadas Raghunath Shad Gosai Prabhu Ki Jai Shri Sarup Damodar Rai Ramanandari Shri Gaur Parshad Vrinda Ki Jai Namachay Shri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Kshetra Mandal Gaura Mandal Vraja Mandal Mathura Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Sarva Abhishta Pradhatta Giriraj Maharaj Ki Jai Shri Radha Kunda Shama Kund Ki Jai Shri Muna Devi Gaṅgā Devi Ki Jai Shri Tulsi Maharani Vrinda Devi Ki Jai Shri Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Shri Purnamasi Yogamaya Ki Jai Shri Gopeshwar Mahadev Ki Jai Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai Samagata Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Śrī Caitanya-bhāgavata Ki Jai Śrīla Vrindavan Das Thakur Ki Jai Śrī Caitanya Charitamrita Ki Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. The Gaudiya Bhashya commentary of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Sarasvatī Goswami Prabhupada Ki Jai Shri Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Let's see who is there. Oh, Hari Bol, Raseshwari Mataji and Gaṅgā Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. Hari Bol. And I see there's one other person watching. So pranam to whoever you are. Alright, so we will sing Kirtan from Mahaprabhu. If anybody has any suggestions, let me know. Otherwise, we'll do Gaurangera Dutti Pada. I haven't sung that in a long time. That's a very common one. But I'm checking the comments. Nope, no requests. Okay. Gauranger Dutti Pada. That person for whom the two lotus feet of Sri Gauranga are his life and property knows the essence of bhakti ras. That person for whom the sweet pastimes of Gauranga have entered the ears is pure in heart. Within one who takes Gauranga's holy names, prem arises. I heartily glorify such a person. To one whose eyes stream tears in appreciation of Gauranga's transcendental qualities, the divine couple's eternal pastimes become manifest. Such a person is qualified for bhakti. One who reveres Gauranga's personal associates as eternally perfected souls goes to the transcendental abode of Rajendra Sutta, the son of the king of Braj. One who knows the land of Sri Gauramandal to be spiritual touchstone achieves residence in the land of Braj. One who dives into the waves of the ocean of Gaur Prem becomes a confidential associate of Shri Shri Radha Madhav. Whether a person lives in his home or as a householder, whether a person lives in his home as a householder or in the forest as a renunciate, If he exclaims, "Ha Gauranga," Narottam Das begs for his association. Hare Krishna, Champak Didi and Shubhanand Prabhu. Hari Bol. And Pradyumna Prabhu, it's been a while. Hari Bol. And pranams Mantramurti Mataji. Okay, 1 second, just picking up my Gaṅgā. Got it. There. Gaurāṅgir duti pada jardhana sampada. O Gaurāṅgir duti pada jardhana sampada. She jane bhakti rasa san. She jane bhakti rasa san. Gaurāṅgir madhur lila jar karne praveshila. Gaurāṅgir madhur lila jar karne praveshila. Hridaya nirmala bhelo taan. Hridaya nirmala bhelo taan. Aje Gaurāṅgir naam loy tar hoy premodoy. Aje Gaurāṅgir naam loy tar hoy premodoy. Atare moi jai boli hari. Tare moi jai boli hari. Gaurāṅga gune te jure nitya lila tare spure. Gaurāṅga gune te jure nitya lila tare spure. Ashe jana bhakti adhikari. She jana bhakti adhikari. Tare moi jai boli hari. Gaurāṅgir shangi gane anitya siddha kori mane. Gaurāṅgir shangi gane nitya siddha kori mane. Ashe jai Brajendra Sutta Pashan. She jai Brajendra Sutta Pashan. Shri Gaura Mandala Bhumi je bajane Chintamani. Shri Gaura Mandala Bhumi je bajane चिंतामणि तार होय ब्रज भूमि वास तार होय ब्रज भूमि वास से जाय व्रजेंद्र सुत पाश से जाय व्रजेंद्र सुत पाश गौर प्रेम रसार्णवे से तरंगे जेबा डूबे गौर प्रेम रसार्णवे से तरंगे जेबा डूबे से राधा माधव हयंतरंग से राधा माधव अंतरंग गृहे बाबा नेते थाके हा गौरंग बोले डाके गृहे बाबा नेते थाके हो हा गौरंग बोले डाके नरोत्तम मागे तार संग नरोत्तम हो मागे तार संग गृहे बाबा नेते थाके हा गौरंग बोले डाके गृहे बाबा नेते थाके हा गौरंग बोले डाके नरोत्तम मागे तार संग नरोत्तम मागे तार संग जय सच्चिदानंद जय गौर हरि सच्चिदानंद जय गौर हरि जय सच्चिदानंद गौर हरि सच्चिदानंद जय गौर हरि गौर हे गौर हे गौर हे गौर हे ओ गौर हे गौर हे गौर हे गौर हे हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल निताय गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल जय श्री गुरुदेव की जय श्री सच्चिदानंद गौर हरि की जय नरथान दास ठाकुर की जय Alright, Hare Krishna everybody. Champak Didi, Shubhananda Prabhu, Raseshwari Mataji, Gaṅgā Mataji, Pradyumna Prabhu, Mantaramurti Mataji, and all the other devotees watching. Let's see. Oh, Amit Prabhu and Sudevi Didi. And I see 3 other people watching. Pranams to all of you. Alright, so we'll do the Mangala Charan now. 1 second. Ajnanatimirandasya jnananjanashalakaya चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। गुरुवे गौरचन्द्राय राधिकायै तदालये कृष्णाय कृष्णभक्ताय तद्भक्ताय नमो नमः। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। आजानुलम्बितभुजौ कनकावदातौ सङ्कीर्तनैकपितरौ कमलायताक्षौ विश्वम्भरो द्विजवरो युगधर्मपालो वन्दे जगत्प्रियकरो करुणावतारो। नमस्त्रिकालसत्याय जगन्नाथसुताय च सभृत्याय सुपुत्राय सकलत्राय ते नमः। अवतीर्णो सकारुण्यो परिच्छिन्नो सरीश्वरो श्रीकृष्ण चैतन्य नित्यानन्दो द्वौ भ्रातरो भजे। सजयति विशुद्धविक्रमा कनकाभकमलायतेक्षणा वरजानुविलम्बितशर्भुजो बहुधा भक्तिरसाभिनर्तका। जयति जयति देव कृष्णचैतन्यचन्द्रो जयति जयति कीर्तिस्तस्य नित्या पवित्रा। जयति जयति भृत्यास्तस्य विश्वेशमूर्ते जयति जयति नृत्यां तस्य सर्वप्रियाणाम्। आद्य श्री चैतन्य प्रिय गोष्ठीर्चरणे अशेष प्रकारे मोर तंडपर नामे तबे वंदो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य महेश्वर नवद्वीपे अवतार नाम विश्वम्भर। तवैवास्मि न जीवामि त्वया विना इति विज्ञाय देवी त्वां नायमां चरणान्तिकम्। भक्त्या विहीना अपराधलक्षाय क्षिप्ताष्टकामादितरङ्गमध्ये कृपामयि त्वां शरणं प्रपन्ना वृन्दे नमस्ते चरणारविन्दम्। भज श्रीकृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानन्द श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासरि गौर भक्तवृन्द। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। The glories of Śrī Caitanya-bhāgavata and Śrīla Vrindavan Das Thakur from Śrī Caitanya-bhāgavata. Ore mura loko shuno Chaitanya Mangal, Chaitanya Mahima jate jani beshakal, Krishna Lila Bhagavate kohe Ved Vyas, Chaitanya Lila Vyas Vrindavana Das, Vrindavana Das koilo Chaitanya Mangal, Jahara Shavane Nashe Sarvaya Mangal, Chaitanya Nitar Jate Jani Mahima, Jate Jani Krishna Bhakti Siddhanter Sima, Bhagavate Jatta Bhakti Siddhanter Sar, Likhiya Chen Iha Jani Koriya Udhar, Chaitanya Mangal Shune Jadi Pashandi Javan, Sheho Maha Vaishnava Hoy Tatakhon, Manushe Rachite Nare Aiche Granta Dhanya, Vrindavana Dasa Mukhe Vakta Shri Chaitanya, Vrindavana Dasa Pade Koti Namaskar, Aiche Granta Korite Ho Tarila Sangsar, Narayani Chaitanyer Uchishta Bhajan, Tar Garbe Janmila Shidasa Vrindavan, Tar Ki Arbhuta Chaitanya Charita Varnan, Jahara Shavane Shuddha Koilo Tribhuvan. Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila 4-5. Sahaje Vichitra Madhur Chaitanya Vihar, Vrindavana Dasa Mukhe Amriter Dhar. By nature, all the activities of Śrī Caitanya Mahaprabhu are very wonderful and sweet, and when they are described by Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur, they become like a shower of nectar. Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur ki jai, Śrī Caitanya-bhāgavata ki jai, the Gaudiya Bhashya of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Sarasvatī Goswami Prabhupada ki jai. Alright, so we are continuing chapter 13. Haribo Rukmini Didi. A lot of people today. Well, 15 people today altogether. Okay. Chapter 13, defeating the Dig-vijayī Paṇḍita. This chapter describes Nimāi's victory over and deliverance of the Dig-vijayī Paṇḍita, who had received the favor of Sarasvatī and who is proud of his knowledge. When Nimāi Paṇḍita was residing When Nimāi Paṇḍita was residing in Navadvip as the crest jewel of all teachers, a great Dig-vijayī Paṇḍita who had received a benediction from Sarasvatī arrived there. The Dig-vijayī had already defeated in arguments the learned scholars of all provinces, and after hearing that the scholars of Navadvip were famous for their learning throughout India, he proudly arrived in Navadvip in order to defeat the scholars there. Hearing about the arrival of the Dig-vijayī Paṇḍita, the entire scholarly community of Navadvip became most restless and worried. When the students of Nimāi Paṇḍita gave him this news, he told him, "The Supreme Lord and destroyer of everyone's pride always destroys the pride of arrogant persons. Trees with fruits and persons with good qualities are always humble. Because great Dig-vijayī kings like Haihaya, Nahusha, Bena, Bana, Naraka, and Ravan were excessively intoxicated with pride, the Lord ultimately destroyed their pride. Therefore, the Lord will soon destroy the pride of this Dig-vijayī who has come to Navadvip." After speaking in this way, the Lord sat on the bank of the Gaṅgā that evening and began to contemplate how to conquer this Dig-vijayī. At that time, as the moon shone in the sky, the Dig-vijayī arrived before the Lord and was informed by the students about the identity of the wonderfully effulgent Nimāi Paṇḍita. The Lord first exchanged a few words with the Dig-vijayī and then respectfully and tactfully requested him to describe the glories of the Gaṅgā. Thereupon, the Dig-vijayī began to quickly and incessantly compose and recite verses in glorification of Gaṅgā Devi, like the rumbling of hundreds of clouds. He was even better than ChatGPT at spontaneously composing verses. Has anybody ever done that? I'd have ChatGPT write verses in different meters. Like I'd say, write a verse about eating pizza in Navadvip in the Shikarini meter. And then it would immediately compose a verse. But the Dig-vijayī Paṇḍita was even better than that. When the Dig-vijayī stopped after incessantly reciting verses for 3 hours, the Lord requested him to explain the verses. Wow, for 3 hours, that's a long time. As soon as Dig-vijayī began to explain, the Lord pointed out innumerable faults in Alankar and other literary rules in the beginning, middle, and end of his description. Innumerable, I thought it was like 5 faults and 5 qualities, or something like that. Anyways, we'll see. The Dig-vijayī could not reply to any of the Lord's challenges. All his ingenuity became overshadowed. When, on seeing this, the Lord's students were about to laugh, The Lord checked them and solaced the Dig-vijayī in various ways. He told the Dig-vijayī to go home, take rest, and after studying further, return the next day. Being extremely embarrassed and saddened within, the Dig-vijayī began to think, I have defeated even the extraordinary scholars of the 6 branches of philosophy, but due to providence, I have finally been defeated by a young ordinary grammar teacher. How is it possible? I must have committed some offense at the feet of Sarasvatī Devi. Thinking in this way, he began to chant the Sarasvatī mantra and soon fell asleep. That very night, Sarasvatī appeared before the Dig-vijayī Paṇḍita and disclosed to him the real identity of Nimāi Pandit. She said, Nimāi Pandit is not an ordinary worldly scholar. He is the omnipotent and original Supreme Personality of Godhead. Sarasvatī Devi is only a shadow of his internal potency. This Sarasvatī, who is the shadow of the internal potency of the Lord, is ashamed to stand before Narayan, therefore remains in the background. Devi further told the Dig-vijayī Paṇḍita that he had now actually achieved the fruit of his worship, because he had the good fortune of seeing the Lord of innumerable universes. Then, after instructing the Dig-vijayī to quickly go to the Lord and surrender at his lotus feet, she disappeared. So that's where we're going to read up to today. I think I'm going to do the recaps like that from now on. Unless Kishore is here to do a recap, I'll just read the contents that in the Kathasar by Srila Bhakti Pramod Puri Goswami Maharaj. I'll just read up to the point where we're finishing, and I'll do that every day. I think that would be a good system. Okay. Oh, let's just see Indira Mataji. There's Haribol Indira Mataji, pranams. Okay. So, what verses are we reading today again? 73 to 135, okay. '73. No. Okay, sorry. I just set this timer so I can always be aware of the time. Can you hear the clicking? If so, I can move it further away. I love this description of Nimāi. So I'm going to read this. I'm going to read from here. Okay. Here, I'll read from this point on. One second, I'm just going to keep my phone next to me so I can see when I call it. Okay. My anonymous friends can hear the clicking. Let me move it up here. There. Okay. All right. So Nimāi says to all the students, you must have heard the great Dig-vijayīs of the past, like Hahaya, Nahusha, Vena, Bana, Naraka, and Ravan. Try to think whose pride was not smashed. The Supreme Lord never tolerates anyone's false ego. Therefore, you will see this Dig-vijayī's scholastic pride vanquished here in Navadvip. After saying this, Nimāi smiled. Then in the evening, he took his students to the bank of the Gaṅgā. After sprinkling some Gaṅgā water on his head and offering obeisances, Lord Gauranga sat down on the bank with his students. As the students sat around the Lord in various groups, it created an unprecedented scene. The Lord jubilantly engaged in discussing Varnashram Dharma and scriptural topics on the bank of the Gaṅgā. Though he did not say anything, the Lord thought, "How shall I defeat this Dig-vijayī? This Brahman has become most proud because he thinks there is no one in the world to oppose him. If I defeat him in an assembly, it would be equal to death for him. Everyone would belittle him, and they would plunder his belongings, and he would die in lamentation. Therefore, I will defeat him in a private place, so that his pride will be destroyed, but he won't be hurt." While the Lord was thinking in this way, night fell, and the Dig-vijayī arrived at that spot. It was a clear, full moon night, and the Gaṅgā looked most enchanting. As the Lord sat with his students, his attractive form was unmatched throughout innumerable universes. A smile decorated the Lord's moon-like face, and his beautiful eyes showered merciful glances. His teeth defeated the luster of a string of pearls, and his reddish lips resembled the color of the rising sun. He was full of compassion, and all the limbs of his body were delicate. His head was adorned with beautiful curly black hair. His dress was divine. His neck resembled that of a lion, and his shoulders were like those of an elephant. His body was very large, and his attractive chest was adorned by Lord Ananta in the form of a Brahman thread. An enchanting mark of tilak decorated his forehead, and his beautiful arms reached to his knees. The Lord wore his cloth like a sannyasi, and he sat with his right foot on his left thigh. As the Lord explains the scriptures, he established correct statements as incorrect and incorrect statements as correct. All of his students sitting around him in groups created an enchanting scene. Seeing that wonderful scene, Dig-vijayī was astonished and thought, "Is this Nimāi Pandit?" Dig-vijayī remained incognito as he gazed steadily on the Lord's beautiful form. He then asked a student, "What is his name?" And the student replied, "He is the famous Nimāi Pandit." The best of the Brahmanas then offered his obeisances to the Gaṅgā and entered the Lord's assembly. Seeing him, the Lord... Okay, that's where we read up to yesterday. Tane deki Prabhu kichu ishat hasiya boshite bolilayati adar koriya. Seeing him, the Lord slightly smiled as he offered him a seat with great respect. Paramani shankashe Dig-vijayī ar tabu Prabhu dekhila sadvasa hoilo tar. Although the Dig-vijayī was very brave by nature and a champion of learning besides, I don't understand that. Anyways, and he was a champion of learning, he was nevertheless frightened on seeing the Lord. Ishvara Swabhava Shakti e mata hoy dekite matre tane sadvasa janmoy. The power of the Supreme Lord's natural characteristic is such that the very sight of him produces fear. Dekite matra tane sadvasa janmoy. So sadvas means fear, huh? That's interesting. Gaudiya Bhashya by Śrīla Bhakti Siddhanta Sarasvatī Goswami Prabhupada. Another reading of this verse is Danda dekhite ki bahu kokon utai. I don't know. Will one raise his hand when he sees a stick? In other words, if one sees a stick in the hands of his opponent, he will never attack him simply on the strength of his arms. Similarly, Gaur Narayan, who is the Lord of Lords and the chastiser of everyone, has such potency or such opulence that none of his controlled subjects are able to transgress or surpass him. The purport is that the Dig-vijayī, who is like a well of limited knowledge, did not dare challenge Sundar, who is like the ocean of unlimited knowledge, but rather became completely frightened. Sato pancho kotha prabhu kohi vipra sange jigyasite tare kichu arambhila range. After exchanging a few words of introduction, the Lord began to sportingly inquire from him. Prabhu kohe tomar kavitver nahi sima, heno nahi jaha tumi na koro varnana. Gaṅgār mahima kichu koroho pathan, shuniya sabar ho papa vimochan. Shuni she Dig-vijayī Prabhur vachan, she khane koribare lagila varnan. Druta je lagila vipra korite varnan. Koto rupe bole tar ke koribe sima. The Lord said, "There is no limit to your poetic ability. There is nothing that you are unable to describe. Please recite some of the glories of the Gaṅgā, for by hearing such glories, everyone's sins are destroyed." Hearing the Lord's request, the Dig-vijayī immediately began to describe the glories of the Gaṅgā. Who can fathom the countless verses that the Brahmins so quickly recited? Gaudiya Bhashya. For an explanation, one should see Śrī Caitanya-bhāgavata Adi, verses 16 verses 34 to 36. Koto megha shuni jeno koroye garjan, e mata kavitver gambhirya pathan. The Dig-vijayī's recitation was like the deep rumbling of clouds. Jivai apani Sarasvatī adhishtan, je boloye she hoy atyanta praman. Since Sarasvatī personally resided on the tongue of Dig-vijayī, whatever he spoke was authorized. Gaudiya Bhashya. The words atyanta praman means most authentic, reasonable, and trustworthy or certain. 83. Manusher shakte taha dushibekake, heno vidyavanta nahi bujhibekaje. No human being had the ability to refute his speech, for no scholar could even understand him. Sahasra sahasra jato prabhur shishyagan, abak hoila sabe shuniya varnan. The Lord's thousands of students all became speechless on hearing those descriptions. Rama Rama Adbhuta Smarena Shishyagan, Manusher e mata kispuraye kathan. Rama Rama, how wonderful, they marveled. Can an ordinary human being speak like this? Jagate Adbhuta Jata Shabda Alankar, She boy Kavitver Varnana Nahi Ar. The most wonderful words and literary ornaments in the world were all used in the Dig-vijayī's recitation. Sarva Shastre Mahavisharada J. Jan, Heno Shabda Tasabar O Bujhite Visham. Even those who were fully conversant in the scriptures had great difficulty understanding his words. E mata prahar khane ka Dig-vijayī, arbhuta she podaye tathapi antanai. The Dig-vijayī continually recited in this amazing way for 3 hours. Wow, without coming to an end. For an entire prahar, right? Gaudiya Bhashya. In the prayers composed and recited by Dig-vijayī, there are many astonishing and choice arrangements of words and beautiful metaphors. Therefore, even the most learned scholars who were experts in the scriptures felt extreme difficulty in considering and relishing those verses. Hari Bol Kishore Prabhu. Pori jadi Dig-vijayī hoila avasar, tabe hasi bolilen Śrī Gaura Sundar. When the Dig-vijayī finally finished his recitation, Śrī Gaura Sundar smiled and spoke. Gaudiya Bhashya. The word avasar, an adjective, means ceased or restrained. Tomar je shabder granthana abhipray, tumi bine bhujaile bhuja nahi jai. The purport of your words are so exalted that unless you explain them, no one can understand, Nimāi said. Gaudiya Bhashya. The words granthana abhipray mean the purpose of composition. Etike apane kichu koroho vyakhyan, je shabde je bolo tumi she supraman. Therefore, please explain a portion of your recitation, for whatever meaning is explained by you must be accepted. Shuniya prabhur vakya sarva manohar, vyakhya kori bare lagilen vipravar. Hearing the Lord's enchanting words, the best of the Brahmanas began to explain. Hari Prabhu Pranam. Vyakhya korile matra Prabhu she khane, tushilen adi madhya ante tina sthane. But as soon as he began to explain a verse, the Lord immediately pointed out faults in the beginning, middle, and end of the verse. Gaudiya Bhashya. Dig-vijayī began to enthusiastically explain the following verse that he had composed. Mahatvam Gaṅgāya satatam idam abhati nitaram, yadesha shivishnos charan akamalo Subhaga Tvitiya Śrī Lakshmiriva Tvitiya Śrī Lakshmiriva Suranara Archa Charana Bhavani Bhartuya Shirasi Vibhavatu Adbhuta Guna. Sorry, I don't know what the meter was for that. The greatness of Mother Gaṅgā always brilliantly exists. She is the most fortunate because she emanated from the lotus feet of Sri Vishnu, the personality of Godhead. She is the second goddess of fortune, and therefore she is always worshipped by both demigods and by humanity. Endowed with all wonderful qualities, she flourishes on the head of Lord Shiva. That's from Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi 16, verses 41 and 46. Prabhu bole e shakal shabda alankar, shastra mate shuddha hoite vishama apar. The Lord said, according to the scriptures, all the words and literary ornaments that you have used are far from correct. Visham apar. They're Visham, that's Visham apar, they're like very far away. Sorry. Man, this weather is like, it's the kind of weather that induces intense sleep. It's like rainy, but not too intense also. And okay, Gaudiya Bhashya. When the Dig-vijayī began to explain the verse, he had composed, the Lord pointed out metaphorical faults in the beginning, middle, and end of the verse. The expert combination of words and absence of metaphorical faults necessary in the composition of a verse were not found in the Dig-vijayī's verse. One must study the 5 faults and 5 qualities pointed out by the Lord in Dig-vijayī's verse, as found in the Caitanya Charitamrita Adi, chapter 16, verses 54 to 84. The second line of this verse indicates that even if one wanted to establish that the words and literary ornaments were used according to the respective literary rules, it would be extremely difficult to do so. Tumi ba diacho kon abhipray kori bolo dekhi kohilen Gauranga Shri Hari. But please tell us, what was your intended meaning of these ornaments? Asked Lord Gauranga. Eta boro Sarasvatī putra Dig-vijayī siddhanta nasphure kichu buddhi gelo kahi. Dig-vijayī, the great son of Sarasvatī, was unable to properly explain, for his intelligence had left him. Gaudiya Bhashya. The phrase buddhi gedo kahi indicates that his intelligence had gone somewhere. In other words, the Dig-vijayī's reasoning ability was lost or vanquished. Sata pancha bole vipra prabodhite nare jai bole tai doshe Gauranga sundara. Whatever little attempt he made to defend himself was refuted by Lord Gaurasundar. Shakala pratibhalai lokon stane apane na bhuje vipra ki bole apane. It appeared that the Dig-vijayī's intelligence had taken leave of him, for he didn't even know what he was saying. Prabhu bole e thakuk poro kichu ar porite o purva mata shakti nahi ar. The Lord said, "Leave this verse and recite another." But the Dig-vijayī was unable to recite like before. Kon chitra tahan samohan prabhu sthane vede o payen moha jar vidyamane. It is not unusual that Dig-vijayī was bewildered in front of the Lord, because even the Vedas are bewildered in the presence of the Lord. Apane ananta chatur mukha panchanana ja sabar drishte hoy ananta bhuvana tar o payen moha jar vidyamane kon chitra she viprer moha prabhu sthane. Lord Brahma, Lord Ananta, and Lord Shiva create, maintain, and annihilate innumerable universes. When even they are bewildered before the Lord, then what is surprising if this Brahman was bewildered? Gaudiya Bhashya. The bewilderment of Lord Anantadev by Lord Gaurasundar is described in the Śrīmad Bhagavatam 2.741 in the following words spoken by Brahma to Narad. Neither I nor all the sages born before you know the fully omnipotent personality of Godhead. So what can others who are born after us know about him? Even the first incarnation of the Lord, namely Shesh, has not been able to reach the limit of such knowledge, although he is describing the qualities of the Lord within 1,000 verses. Sorry, did I say voices? Although he is describing the qualities of the Lord with 1,000 faces, 1,000 mouths. After Brahma, the creator of the universe, stole the cows and cowherd boys of Braj, Lord Krishna, in order to bewilder Brahma and destroy the lamentation of the cowherd boys' mothers, personally accepted the forms of the cowherd boys and calves and continued enjoying his pastimes in the pasturing grounds for 1 full year. At that time, seeing the gopis being unable to understand the cause, Lord Balaram thought as follows: Who is this mystic power, and where has she come from? Is she a demigod or demoness? She must be the illusory energy of my master, Lord Krishna, for who else can bewilder me? That's Srimad Bhagavatam 10, 13, 37. One second. God, I need to stand up. Okay. The bewilderment of Chaturmukha Brahma is described in the Srimad Bhagavatam 10:13, verses 40 to 45 as follows. When Lord Brahma returned after a moment of time had passed according to his own measurement, he saw that although by human measurement a complete year had passed, Lord Krishna, after all that time, was engaged just as before. He was engaged just as before in playing with the boys and calves who were his expansions. Lord Brahma thought, whatever boys and calves there were in Gokul, I have kept them sleeping on the bed of my mystic potency, and to this very day they have not yet risen again. A similar number of boys and calves have been playing with Krishna for one whole year, yet they are different from the ones that were illusions by my mystic potency. Who are they? Where did they come from? Thus, Lord Brahma, thinking and thinking for a long time, tried to distinguish between those two sets of boys, who were each separately existing. He tried to understand who was real and who was not real. He couldn't understand at all. Thus, because Lord Brahma wanted to mystify the all-pervading Lord Krishna, who can never be mystified, but who, on the contrary, mystifies the entire universe, he himself was put into bewilderment by his own mystic power. As the darkness of snow on a dark night and the light of a glowworm in the light of the day have no value, the mystic power of an inferior person who tries to use it against a person of great power is unable to accomplish anything. Instead, the power of that inferior person is diminished. See also Caitanya-bhāgavata Adi Khanda 172, which quotes Srimad Bhagavatam 2.741. This verse is also quoted at the beginning of this purport. The bewilderment of Panchanana Shiva is described as follows. When Lord Hari, in the form of Mohini, bewildered the demons and gave the demigods nectar to drink, Lord Shiva, who rides on a bull and who is the husband of Bhavani, along with his wife Uma and his followers, went before Lord Hari to see his form as Mohini. Shiva worshipped the Lord and spoke in the following words found in the Srimad Bhagavatam 8:12-10. O my Lord, I, who am considered to be the best of the demigods, and Lord Brahma, the best of the rishis, and Lord Brahma and the great rishis, headed by Marichi, are born of the mode of goodness. Nonetheless, we are bewildered by your illusory energy and cannot understand what this creation is. Aside from us, what is to be said of others, like the demons and human beings who are in the base modes of material nature, Rajagun and Tamagun? How will they know you? Elsewhere in the Srimad Bhagavatam 8:12-22 and 25, Sri Shukadev Goswami speaks to Maharaj Parikshit as follows. While Lord Shiva observes the beautiful woman playing with the ball, she sometimes glanced at him and slightly smiled in bashfulness. As he looked at the beautiful woman, she watched him. One second. As she looked at the beautiful woman and she watched him, he forgot both himself and Uma, his most beautiful wife, as well as his associates nearby. Lord Shiva, his good sense taken away by the woman because of lusty desires to enjoy with her, became so mad for her that even in the presence of Bhavani, he did not hesitate to approach her. A description of the bewilderment of other demigods is found in the Kena or Talavakar Upanishad as follows. The Supreme Brahman Vishnu, alone gave victory to the demigods in their battle with the demons. By the victory of the Supreme Brahman, Vishnu, the demigods became glorious. But due to foolishness, they thought, "This is our victory, this is our glory." The Supreme Brahman, Vishnu, understood the foolishness of the demigods and appeared before them as a yaksha or Gandharva. But even though the demigods saw the Supreme Brahman before them, they nevertheless asked, "Who is this great personality in the form of a yaksha?" They could not clearly understand. They said to Agni, "O knower of the Vedas, who is this great personality? You should get to know him fully." Agni said, "It will be done." When Agni went before the Supreme Brahman said to Agni, "Who are you?" Agni replied, "I am Agni, the celebrated knower of the Vedas." The Supreme Brahman said, "Being so, what power do you have?" Agni replied, "I can burn to ashes anything within this material world." The Supreme Brahman placed a straw before him and said, "Burn this." Agni went before the straw and was unable to burn it with his entire strength. Being defeated by the Supreme Brahman, Agni returned to the demigods and said, "I could not fully understand who this great personality in the form of a yaksha is." Thereafter the demigods said to Vayu, "O Vayu, who is this great personality in the form of a yaksha? You should get to know him fully." Vayu said, "It will be done." When Vayu went before the Supreme Brahman said to Vayu, "Who are you?" Vayu replied, "I am Vayu, the celebrated wind." The Supreme Brahman said, "Being so, what power do you have?" Vayu replied, "I can blow away anything within this material world." The Supreme Brahman placed a straw before him and said, "Blow this." Vayu went before the straw and was unable to blow it away with his entire strength. Being defeated by the Supreme Brahman, Vayu returns to the demigods and said, "I cannot fully understand who this great personality in the form of a yaksha is." Thereafter the demigods said to Indra, "O Indra, who is this great personality in the form of a yaksha? You should get to know him fully." Indra said, "It will be done." When Indra went to the Supreme Brahman disappeared from his sight. When Indra saw the beautiful golden female form of Uma Devi in the same sky, he went before her and directly asked, "Who is this great personality in the form of a yaksha?" Uma Devi clearly told him, "He is the Supreme Brahman, Vishnu. By Lord Vishnu's victory, you have become glorious." Upon hearing these words of Uma Devi, Indra became fully convinced that he was the Supreme Brahman, or Vishnu. Where was that from? Sorry, this is in the Kena Upanishad. Okay, 103. Hare Krishna Shah Sharma ji. Lakshmi Sarasvatī Adi Jata Yoga Maya Ananta Brahmanda Mohe Jasa Bar Chaya. Let's just see what the previous verse. Okay. So Lord Brahma, Lord Ananta, and Lord Shiva create, maintain, and annihilate innumerable universes. When even they are bewildered before the Lord, then what is surprising if this Brahman was bewildered? Unlimited universes are bewildered by Maya, the shadow of Lakshmi, Sarasvatī, and other internal potencies of the Lord. Gaudiya Bhashya. Yoga Maya removes the covered and throned conditions born from the conditioned soul's enjoying propensity and assists the conditioned souls in achieving the unalloyed service of Krishna. And when this same Yoga Maya is accepted as the object of enjoyment by persons who are averse to the Lord, she immediately bewilders, punishes, and sends them to the prison house. this material world. The conditioned souls in the material sky, which is their field of enjoyment, are eligible for being covered by ignorance due to their propensity for temporary enjoyment. Since the principles of ignorance, abomination, and interruption are absent in the eternal abode of the spiritual sky, even though Yogamaya has a propensity for favorable service to the Lord due to the enjoying spirit of the conditioned souls who are averse to the Lord, she bewilders them by creating illusions that are unfavorable for the service of the Lord. Maya and her opulences, who are like shadows of the Lord's spiritual energies such as Lakshmi and Sarasvatī, spread a network of nescience, which is converse to spiritual knowledge. She spreads a network of nescience by awarding mundane knowledge to the averse conditioned souls who are wandering throughout the universe. Maya, the external energy, and her opulences, who are the shadows of Mahalakshmi, the internal potency of the Lord in the spiritual sky, and who bewilder the averse souls, are also bewildered on seeing the Lord's supreme opulences as they constantly engage in the service of the Lord while considering themselves the fully dependent maidservants of the Lord. In the mood of maidservants, all these opulences of the Lord serve the Lord for his ultimate satisfaction. And to create further illusion for the living entities who are averse to the Lord, she is seen from the material point of view as Maya, the bestower of the fruits of work. It is stated in the Śrīmad Bhagavatam 1.7 verses 4-6. He saw the absolute personality of Godhead along with his external energy, which was under full control. Due to this external energy, the living entity, although transcendental to the three modes of material nature, thinks of himself as a material product and thus undergoes the reactions of material miseries. The material miseries of the living entity, which are superfluous to him, can be directly mitigated by the linking process of devotional service. Tahara payen mohajar vidyamane ataeva pacheshe taken sarvakhane. Yet she also, Sarasvatī, and other, she is, unlimited universes are bewildered by Maya, the shadow of Lakshmi, Sarasvatī, and other internal potencies of the Lord. But even this Maya is also bewildered in the presence of the Lord, and therefore she always stands behind him. Veda karta shesha o moha pai janastane kon chitra dig-vijayī Paṇḍita. When the compiler of the Vedas and even Ananta Shesh are bewildered in the presence of the Lord, then what is surprising if the Dig-vijayī is bewildered? Gaudiya Bhashya. The word Vedakarta refers to either Lord Brahma or Krishna Dvaipayan Vyas. At the time of stealing the cows and on seeing the multi-headed Brahmas at Dwarka, Brahma became bewildered. After compiling the Mahabharata and the Puranas on the bank of the Sarasvatī, Śrī Vyasadeva also felt dissatisfied, being bewildered by the wonderful pastimes of Gopi Janavallabha, Shesh or Anantadev. He aspired to accept subordination to the gopis. What? Wow, I've never heard that one before. Anantadev aspired to accept subordination to the gopis? When such great, powerful and opulent demigods and sages become bewildered by the supreme opulences of Lord Narayan, then what is astonishing if either the insignificant living entities who are servants of those demigods and sages, or the deceived Dig-vijayī will also become bewildered? What is astonishing if they become bewildered? It is stated in the Bhagavad Gita 7.14. This divine energy of mind, consisting of the three modes of material nature, is difficult to overcome. This is Trigunya Vishaya Veda, right? But those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it. In the Srimad Bhagavatam 8:12-39, the Supreme Lord speaks to Lord Shiva as follows. It says, "My dear Lord Shambhu, who within this material world but you can surpass my illusory energy? People are generally attached to sense enjoyment and conquered by its influence. Indeed, the influence of material nature is very difficult for them to surmount." In the Srimad Bhagavatam 10:14-21, Brahma prays to Lord Krishna as follows. "O Supreme Great One, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, O Supersoul, Master of all mystic power, your pastimes are taking place continuously in these three worlds. But who can estimate where, how, and when you're employing your spiritual energy and performing these innumerable pastimes? No one can understand the mystery of how your spiritual energy acts." Manushe sabha karya asambhava podo te boli tar shakal karya dodo. It is impossible for ordinary living entities to understand the activities of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, his activities are transcendently glorious. 107. Mule jatta kichu karma koren ishvare shakale nistar hetu dukhito jivere. In fact, the activities performed by the Supreme Lord are all meant for the deliverance of the conditioned souls. Gaudiya Bhashya. The Supreme Lord, who incarnates out of his causeless mercy, regularly manifests his various pastimes in order to award supreme eternal benefit to the averse living entities of this world. All of his pastimes are performed with the desire to deliver the living entities. In this regard, one should particularly discuss the Srimad Bhagavatam verse 10:14-8, beginning with Tatenu Kampam. Being intoxicated by apparently sweet but unlimitedly inauspicious conceptions, the averse conditioned souls find and point out faults even in the eternally beneficial supreme will of the Lord. That is why they are conditioned or ignorant. When, out of good fortune, the living entity understands that he is the eternal servant of Krishna, then he no longer has any fear or distress. Dig-vijayī jadi parajaya praveshila shishyagan hasivare udyata hoila. Verse 108. As the Dig-vijayī faced defeat, the Lord's students were on the verge of laughing. Gaudiya Bhashya. The phrase parajaya praveshila means he began to face defeat. Sabare prabhu korilen nivaran vipraprati bolilen madhur vachan. The Lord, however, forbade them from laughing, and he sweetly spoke to the Brahmana. Aji chalo tumi shubha koro vasa prati kali bichari vo sab tomara sanghati. You please go home for today, and tomorrow we will discuss some more. Gaudiya Bhashya. The words Shubha Koro mean begin your journey or proceed. Tumi o hoilo shanta anika podiya nisha o anika jai shui thako giya. You must be tired after your long recitation, and it's getting late. Please go take rest. Gaudiya Bhashya. The phrase nisha o anekajai means it is also late at night. E mata prabhur komala vyavasai jahare jinen sheho dukha nahi pai. The Lord's behavior was so gentle that whoever was defeated by him felt no distress. She navadvipe jata adhyapaka ache jiniya osabare toshen prabhu pache. After defeating each of the teachers in Navadvip, the Lord satisfied them with his sweet behavior. Chalo aji ghare gya bose punti chaho. Kali je jigyasi taha boli bare chaho. The Lord continued, "Let us go home today. Then, after looking at your books, come tomorrow and answer my questions." Jiniya o kare na korena teja bhanga. Sabe hoyen prita enotar ranga. Even after defeating someone, the Lord did not insult them, and thus everyone was pleased with them. Such were the pastimes of the Lord. Gaudiya Bhashya. The word Tejabhanga refers to the hampering of one's prestige. Ataeva navadipe jatika pandita sabar prabhur prati mane bodo prita. That is why all the learned scholars of Navadip were so affectionate to the Lord. Shishyagana sanghati chalila prabhu ghar Dig-vijayī hoila bodo lajita antar. As the Lord returned home with his students, the Dig-vijayī felt great shame. Dukita hoilo vipra chinte mane mane Sarasvatī more var dilen apane. In distress, the Brahmana thought, "I have been personally blessed by Sarasvatī. Nimāi Shanka Patanjal, Mimamsa Darshan, Vaisheshika Vedante, Nipuna Jatra Jan. Heno jana na dekhilo sangsara bhitore, Jenite ki dae mor sane kokha kore." Till now, I have not met a single person, whether a scholar of Nyaya, Sankhya, Patanjal, Mimamsa, Vaisheshika, or Vedanta, who could even compete with me. What to speak of defeating me? Gaudiya Bhashya. I have met scholars who are experts in the 6 branches of philosophy, and what to speak of defeating me, they did not even try to enter into debate with me. 121. Shishu Shastra Vyakarana Poraye Brahman She Mor Jinilo Heno Vidhir Khatan. This Brahman merely teaches children's grammar. And he defeated me? This Brahman who merely teaches children's grammar? This is certainly an act of providence. Gaudiya Bhashya. This Brahman boy is a teacher of ordinary grammar and primary education. But alas, due to misdeeds, I had to face defeat by him. Among the 6 limbs of Vedas, grammar is like the face of the personified Vedas, and it is the preliminary scripture for students engaged in studying the scriptures. But it is an indisputed fact that one cannot become expert in literature, alankar, smritis, or philosophical works simply possessing expertise in learning and teaching grammar. Nevertheless, this young boy who is expert in grammar has defeated even an experienced champion of the scriptures like me. Sarasvatir vare anyatha dekhi hoy, homor chitte boro lagilo sangshay. Devi stane mor ba janmilo kona dosh, ataeva hoilo mor pratibha sankoch. It appears that Sarasvati's benediction has proven false, which awakens doubts in my mind. Otherwise, have I committed some offense at her feet? In that way, why must my I don't know what I was reading. I'm starting to get. One second. Sorry, guys. It appears Sarasvati's benediction has proven false, which awakens doubts in my mind. Otherwise, have I committed some offense at her feet? Is that why my intelligence was diminished? Gaudiya Bhashya. Since I have been defeated by this young Brahmin grammarian, I can now understand that the benediction I received from my worshipable goddess Sarasvatī Devi has proved a complete failure. Therefore, various doubts are arising in my mind. The goddess whom I had pleased and from whom I had received this benediction for becoming a Dig-vijayī must be displeased as a result of my offenses. Otherwise, why would my great ingenuity in learning be defeated by an ordinary young grammarian? 124. Avashya ihar aji bujibo karan eto boli mantra jape boshila brahman. I must find out the cause of my defeat. Thinking in this way, the Brahman began chanting his mantra. Mantra japi dukhe vipra shayana korila swapne Sarasvatī vipra samukhe aila. After chanting for some time, the distressed Brahman fell asleep, and in a short time Sarasvatī appeared before him in a dream. Kripa drishte bhagyavanta brahmanera prati kohite lagila ati gopya Sarasvatī. Goddess Sarasvatī glanced mercifully on the fortunate Brahmana and confidentially spoke as follows. She confidentially spoke as follows to the. She said, Sarasvatī bolen shuno ho vipravar veda kopya kohi e tomara gochai. O best of the Brahmanas, listen as I disclose to you the secrets of the Vedas. Karastani kaho jadi e shakal kotha tabe tumi shigra hoiba alpa ayu sarvata jar thai tomara hoilo parajay ananta brahmanda nata she sunishjoy. If you disclose these topics to anyone, you will meet a quick death. Know for certain that he by whom you are defeated is the Lord of innumerable universes. Gaudiya Bhashya. Sarasvatī appeared in a dream before the Dig-vijayī Paṇḍita, who had chanted her mantras. And Sarasvatī said to him, if you disclose to anyone the most confidential topics that I am telling you regarding the covered incarnation of the Lord, then your death is certain. It is said that since Keshav-bhatta, the spiritual master of Gaṅgā, revealed the information about Srimad Mahaprabhu that was given to him in a dream by Sarasvatī, he met with a premature death. Therefore, Gaṅgā again initiated a Brahmin from Kashmir and gave him the name Keshav. From this popular hearsay, it is clearly understood that the Dig-vijayī Paṇḍita referred to herein is not Keshav Kashmiri. Rather, he is a Pandit named Keshav-bhatta. Okay. Oops, my bad. I keep on saying Keshav Kashmiri. Ami jar pad parme nirastar dasi sammukha hoite apanare lajjabasi. I am an eternal maidservant at his lotus feet, and I am embarrassed to appear before him. After Narad Muni inquired about the actual identities of Lord Vishnu and Maya, Brahma offered obeisances to the Supreme Lord and spoke the following verse from Śrīmad Bhagavatam 2.5.13. Vilajjamanaya yasya statum ikshapate muya vimohita vikatante mamaham iti durdidha. Mamaham iti durdhiya. The illusory energy of the Lord cannot take precedence, being ashamed of her position. But those who are bewildered by her always talk nonsense, being absorbed in thoughts of it is I and it is mine. What verse are we reading up to? Verse 135, okay. Gaudiya Bhashya. Since the previous verse to this, that's Srimad Bhagavatam 2.5.12, describes the Lord's relationship with Maya and her insurmountable position, the Supreme Lord also appears to be under the control of Maya. This doubt is removed, that's what Mayavadis think. This doubt is removed by this verse. Thinking the Supreme Lord knows well about my duplicitous nature and cheating propensity, Maya is ashamed to stand before the Lord and is unable to manifest her own prowess. But being bewildered by such Maya, we, who are bewildered by nescience, become proud while thinking in terms of I and mine. This verse also answers the question of the previous verse regarding who created this universe. That's from Sridhar Swami's commentary, all that. Let's see who's now, this is from Krama Sandarbha. Being bewildered by Maya, who feels embarrassed to stand before the vision of the Lord, who is faultless and full of transcendental qualities as a result of his Satchidananda nature, we glorify ourselves in terms of I and mine. That's from the Krama Sandarbha. Now this is from the Tattva Sandarbha of the Bhagavat Sandarbha. The word Vilajamanaya in this verse indicates that Maya's act of bewildering the living entities is not very palatable to the Supreme Lord. Though Maya knows this, according to the principle, persons who are averse to Krishna become fearful as a result of their absorption in objects not related to Krishna, Maya has from time immemorial been unable to tolerate the living entities' aversion or lack of knowledge of the Supreme Lord. She thus covers the real identity of the living entities and places them in an unnatural position. That's from Tattva Sandarbha 37 of the Bhagavat Sandarbha. Without understanding the relationship with the Supreme Lord, both those who give respect and those who accept respect are eligible for being bewildered by Maya, who stands behind the Lord. This is being described in this verse. Considering Vilajamana, or the Supreme Lord, considering Vilajamana, or the Supreme Lord certainly knows my duplicity, Maya, like a deceitful wife, is ashamed to stand before the Lord. In other words, she stands behind the Lord. Being bewildered by this Maya, the living entities proudly think in terms of I and mine. Aversion to the Lord should herein be understood as the back of the Lord. As soon as one is averse to the Lord, one becomes influenced by Maya. But when he is inclined towards the Lord, the influence of Maya is not found. That was from the Sarata Darshini. Amishe boliye vipra tomar jivai tahan samukhe shakti na bose amai. O Brahmana, although I speak through your tongue, in front of him I have no power. Amar ki dai shesh deva bhagavan sahasra vadane veda je kore vyakhyan aja bhava jadi jar upasana kore eno shesha moha mane jahara gochare. What to speak of me, even Lord Ananta Shesh, who explains the Vedas with thousands of mouths, and who is worshipped by Brahma and Shiva, he is also bewildered in his presence. Para Brahma Nitya Shuddha Akhanda Avyaya Paripurna Hoy Vaishe Sabara Hriday. He is the Supreme Brahman, the eternal, pure, complete, and inexhaustible Lord who is situated in everyone's heart. Gaudiya Bhashya. And we're ending with this verse here. Shri Gaurasundar lies in the ocean of milk in the form of Aniruddha, the localized supersoul in the hearts of all living entities, and lies in the Garbhodaka ocean in the form of Pradyumna, the aggregate supersoul and the source of all universes. He is complete, undivided, infallible, and and eternally pure. Since he is Kshiradakshaya Vishnu, considering him as separate from Garbhodakshaya Vishnu is an obstacle to achieving full knowledge. Since he is Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, considering him separate from Kshiradakshaya Vishnu is an obstacle in self-realization. Since he is Karnodakshaya Vishnu, considering him separate from Sankarshan is an obstacle in complete realization of the Absolute Truth. Actually, the one Absolute Truth, the original personality of Godhead, Gaur Krishna, is Baladev. The first Chaturvyuha, the second Chaturvyuha, and the three Vishnus who lie on the Karan, Garbhodak, and Kshira oceans. Considering the localized aggregate Karan, Garbha, and Virat forms of Vishnu as separate from the Absolute Truth, enhances the conditioned soul's material conceptions and illusions. In order to remove these conceptions, Sarasvatī Devi disclosed that Shri Gaurasundar is the source of all Vishnu incarnations and none different from Vrajendra Nandan, the son of the king of Vraj. So we will hear what happens next tomorrow. We'll hear the rest of what Sarasvatī Devi tells the Dig-vijayī Paṇḍita and what happens when he goes to see the Lord now, after knowing all this. All right. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gaur Hari Bol. Jai Shri Guru Gauranga Gandhar Vikagiri Dhari Shri Radha Vinod Bihari Ju Ki Jai Shri Govinda Gopinath Madan Mohan Ju Ki Jai Nitya Lila Pravishtam Vishnupad Rashata Rashata Shishmar Bhaktivedanta Narayan Gosai Maharaj Shri Gurudev Ki Jai Nitya Lila Pravishtam Vishnupad Rashata Rashata Shishmar Bhaktivedanta Vaman Gosai Maharaj Ki Jai Nitya Lila Pravishtam Vishnupad Rashata Rashata Shishmar Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai Nitya Pravishtam Vishnupad Rashata Rashata Shishmar Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Gosai Maharaj Ki Jai Nitya Pravishtam Vishnupad Rashata Rashata Shishmar Bhakti Siddhanta Sarasvatī Gosai Prabhupada Ki Jai Nitya Pravishta Maha-bhagavat Śrīla Gaurkishora Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai Nitya Pravishta Śrīla Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur Ki Jai Nitya Pravishta Vaishnav Sarvabhauma Śrīla Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai Shri Rupa Anuga Guru Varga Ki Jai Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jeev Gopal Bhattadasa Raghunath Shara Gosai Prabhu Ki Jai Shri Sarup Damodar Rai Ramanandari Shri Gaur Parshad Vrinda Ki Jai Namachay Shri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Kshetra Mandal Gaura Mandal Braja Mandal Mathura Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Sarva Abhishta Pradata Giriraj Maharaj Ki Jai Shri Radha Kun Shama Kun Yamuna Ganga Tulsi Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Śrī Caitanya-bhāgavata Ki Jai Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur Ki Jai The Gaudiya Bhashya Commentary of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Sarasvatī Gosai Prabhupada Ki Jai Śrī Harinam Śrī Caitanya-bhāgavata ki jai, Grantaraj Śrīmad Bhagavatam ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Samagata Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Śrī Nimāi Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bo. Vrindai Tulsidevai Priyai Keshavashacha Krishna Bhakti Pradadevi Sattvatai Namo Namaha Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyaiva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Dandavat pranams, everybody. Hare Krishna. Let me just see. Haribo, Rukmini Didi, and Indira Mataji. Yeah, sorry about that, Indira Mataji. Yes, I am going to definitely get some sleep. I tried waking up earlier today. I've been waking up at 4:30 lately, and I'm trying to get up at 4. But I guess I have to go to sleep earlier to be able to do that. So that's why it was hitting me. All right. Does anybody have anything that they wanted to say? Kishore Prabhu or Nrihari Prabhu or anybody else?
I just think that it's interesting to note that Sarasvatī Prabhupada, his name is Bhakti Siddhanta Sarasvatī. Bhakti Siddhanta, the philosophical conclusion on devotional service to Krishna. And then Sarasvatī, very high title, Bhakti Siddhanta Sarasvatī.
Yes. Yeah, and when did he get that title? He got that title from was it after he wrote Surya Siddhanta? It was like I forgot what it's called, some big famous assembly, they gave him the title.
Surya Siddhanta.
Yeah.
I think it was at that time they gave him Siddhanta. They gave him the title Siddhanta Saraswati, and then later Bhaktivinoda Thakur added Bhakti to it, and then it became Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati.
Okay. Yes.
Of course, Prabhupada's initiated name was Shri Varshaba Navi Daidadas.
Yes. Yes.
Srila Bhakti Sharanga Goswami Maharaj, he wanted to give our Srila Prabhupada the title Bhakti Siddhanta.
Really?
Yeah. Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Goswami Maharaj said it wouldn't be correct because that is the name of our guru. So we should give him the title Bhakti Vedanta.
Huh.
So Prabhupada was known as
amazing.
Bhakti Vedanta Prabhu.
Wow, I've never heard that. That's amazing. This year, this next upcoming Navadip Parikrama, Madhav Maharaj is going to do his Parikrama from Bhakti Saranga Goswami Maharaj's Mat, that meeting place of Gaurnitai. It's an interesting thing I heard yesterday.
Oh, hey, Prabhu, I have one question.
Mm-hmm.
Could you update the Śrī Caitanya-bhāgavata playlist on YouTube?
Oh yeah, you asked me to do that before, and like a long time ago, and I completely forgot. Yes, I will write it in my to-do right this second. Update CB playlist. Okay, done. Okay, now I'll do it. If it's in my to-do list, I'll do it. Great. All right. So, sorry for. I think when I get really tired, my reading's probably really boring, isn't it? Because I'm like, but anyhow, I'm going to try to go to sleep earlier tonight, and then I'll be more awake. All right. Thank you so much for joining, everybody, and
a little note. Prabhu. Sure. In respect to that title, Bhaktisiddhanta, Gargamuni Prabhu, the early disciple of Srila Prabhupada, he showed me that letter where the title was given, Bhaktisiddhanta, and like you said later on, was said that it was better not to have that way in order to honor and give that title to Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvatī Thakur Prabhupada. But yeah, I saw that letter. It would be interesting. I think he's actually compiling a book on letters to Brahmananda like that. And but yeah, this few years ago in Vrindavan, he showed me So it's confirmed. It's true. That was given to Prabhupada too.
That is amazing. Really amazing. I mean, there's no higher honor than that.
Yeah, and it's interesting to know that Prabhupada did get Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada's title, Prabhupada.
Yes, it's true. Yeah.
That's very interesting, Hari Prabhu. Gargamuni Prabhu is compiling a book of Brahmananda Prabhu's letters.
He is, and yeah, there's a god sister. There in Vrindavan. Mahasini, you may know. Very good friends of my wife. I'm sorry, I forget the name right now. Yeah, they're working on that, and he's publishing. And Facebook, sometimes he does send some of the notes or some of those letters, and really amazing stuff. Yeah.
All right. Jai Shri Radhe. Thanks for sharing that. And see you tomorrow. When did you say that he'll have the book? When will the book be ready, you said?
I'm not sure. I don't know. I know they're working.
Okay.
They're working at it right now. They've been doing that for probably a year and a half or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah. It's gotta be
Awesome.
astonishing, really.
Yeah.
Especially Ramananda was actually a quiet scholar himself, in the way. No, of course, probably, yeah. He read one time years ago, invited with his brother. That was part.
I can't. You're breaking up a little bit. Can you?
Oh, okay. Maybe can hold on. Turn it off. Yeah. Can you hear me better?
I don't know.
Hello?
Yes. Speak.
Okay. And so
Okay, that's better.
yeah, he Brahmananda he invited us for lunch. Bhattarini and Shamarani did it too. The three of us went, and it was 5 of us. And Brahmananda was expressing his admiration for Sri Narayan Maharaj Gurudev. And yeah, I have this book. I mean, it's a small book. It's like biographical or pastimes like that. But I think that what Gargamuni is compiling is probably going to be pretty complete, and especially all the information we'll have, the exchange with Srila Prabhupada. Thank you, Prabhu. Dandavat pranams.
Dandavat pranams. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, dandavat to all. Hare Krishna.
See you all tomorrow. Jai Shri Radhe.